welcome back to my channel. My name is Tiffany. I'm so excited for you to be here today. In today's video, we are actually going to do an interview with a local yarn dyer. And this is somebody who is in the fiber community, and I'm just really excited to see what she does and how she does it. Hi, welcome. Thank you so much for your time and showing us what we're doing today. Can you please introduce yourself and let us know what it is we're actually doing today?
Absolutely. Hi, my name is Gloria. I am the main dyer for Lone Star Farm Handcrafted. We do yarn notions and stuff like that, and then we have a yarn line called Hank Me Home Tonight. We have been around for about a little over 3 years, and we're going to go today through some of the processes that we do with prepping, dyeing, and completing the yarn side of things, so the Hank Me Home side.
Are you ready?
Absolutely, I'm all set up. Let's go.
All right, let's go.
Awesome.
All right, so we are at step 1. So what is the first thing that we are seeing when you are dyeing your yarn?
Number 1 is the most important thing. You have to put on your Crocs.
Dang it, I don't have any.
I can get you some. I have Rent-A-Crocs for the day.
Rent-A-Crocs.
With yarn dyeing, you're up on your feet a lot more than you expect. So I have found that Crocs, as ugly as they are, you can get fancy pants ones and wear those, but you're up on your feet, so just make sure you're wearing a good pair of shoes.
Okay.
Number 1 rule. The real first step that you do with yarn is you prep it by doing a soak. In here is some water, some citric acid, and you need at least 30 minutes, like an hour, but you can leave them up to 24 hours in this and it'd be okay. So if you're going to dye tomorrow morning, I can just go ahead and throw it in the night before, make sure they've gotten a good soak. That allows the fiber to open up and for it to take in the color, the dyes. You excited?
I'm so excited.
So I just kind of squeeze them off a little bit as we go and try to get as much water out as I can, because some of it does kind of get on my floors and stuff. So
I've already been warned about wet floors. So
yes, wet floors, let's just be careful. So I'm going to take this and start putting it in the pans. All right, so we're going to come here and put them in the pans. And so what I'll do is I will grab some of my yarns and stick them in the pan and kind of just work them to where everything is kind of even and that they're going to get an even saturation through the fiber. So I'm going to throw a couple more in here and then do some adjustment to make sure that they are kind of good and even and look like they're going to get you a pretty consistent dye. So we just filled our cookers with the yarn, and I say cookers because they actually are cookers. These are chafing pans that we use for cooking. There's a ton of different ways to bring heat into it. You can use a stovetop if you're starting out, because that's usually a pretty easy thing.
Okay.
You can buy chafing pans that provide, the offset heat as well. There's also like warming ovens that you can purchase that are used for cooking, right? Because these are chafing pans and they fit skeins of yarn perfectly. So
oh wow.
So a lot of cooking equipment is used. You'll see whisks and measuring cups and all those things. So. But I use chafing pans because it is portable, because as you can see, this is my dining room and I do turn it into my dye studio in the meantime. So I like the portability of these until I have a dedicated workspace. I'm going to go ahead and start mixing up some of the color combinations that we were looking at today and get it ready to put on the yarn while the yarn warms up.
Oh, this is so exciting. Okay, cool. So how do you do this?
So depending on the color, some, I'll mix and match as I'm going, but what I'm doing is being very careful not to spill it because I don't want this everywhere, but I will grab the color and measure it out appropriately and put it into my water. What I did when I initially got a lot of the dyes was I made small swatches of yarn, and I dipped each of the swatches in the color, so I could see their true colors on the yarn and the fiber content that I'm using. So
smart.
I wanted to make sure that it wasn't going to be some of the color names and when it shows up, because I have a color chart back here in the back, some of the names and the colors that show up are definitely very different than what actually comes out. So I've been fooled by a couple of things before, and so I just kind of have played with it until I'm happy. Now I'm not writing it down, but normally I have a recipe book. I will write down my recipes and I'll remember this for the next couple of minutes, so I'm not too worried. But I'll write down my recipes so that way I can repeat it later on, especially if it's colorways that I really enjoy or that people really enjoy. The other thing that that I'll do to make sure to even pump up my dye saturation a little bit is I'll add citric acid to my dye as well, just to make sure that it really sucks in some of the things. So I just put a little bit in as well, just to ensure, because I don't know if you see, but every indie dyer has a different trademark or trademark feel. Some of them have very neutral, very flowy tones. I am a more in-your-face, vibrant kind of girl. I love color. I love playing with color, experimenting, throwing different things together and having fun with it. And so I really want my yarn saturated. I really want it bright. I really want it just through and through to where you get these really fun color combinations. Yeah, we've got it all prepped and ready, and the cookers are warm enough now for us to start dyeing. So what I'm going to do is put some of the first color on, okay, and then go into the second one. So this first one, I'm looking at getting the top layer kind of settled. So I'm going to just kind of get it in there and get it going. And then adding that next one. Okay, so now that all of the yarn is dyed on one side, I'm not too worried about the white spots because they will go away here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it over, that way I can get the back side of them. So I'm going to flip the yarns now. What's fun about indie yarn is no two skeins are the same. They're similar. They've got some commonality in them, but you're never going to have the same skein of yarn over and over again, which is lovely. So if you're thinking about doing a project or a sweater or something that contains a lot of fiber, it's really good to try to get the same kind of dye lot because there is some variation with indie yarns. So I'm going to do round 2, okay, of the colors. So
same colors or different colors?
So I'm changing colors. I'm doing 4 colors on this batch. So the first is a purple and then kind of a blue-green kind of color. And the second ones are going to be a pink with a tan color. Oh. So the spots that are white, those are the ones I'm going to try to saturate right now. So I'm going to get really, that's why I have my trusty gloves on, because I'm going to want to get everything really good and saturated on this side so that we don't have any big outstanding white spots in the end product. Man, these black striped ones just have this luscious color to it. The color absorbs so well, and it's definitely one of my favorites to dye.
It's really cool.
If you look at it side by side, I know it's kind of hard to see. It's just the absorption rate is just different. And again, it's one of those things where it's the fiber content. Even though these are similar fiber content, it just pulls completely different. So even though they're all the same colorway, to look from one to the next, there's still variation. And so it's super cool. Now, this is going to cook off for a little while. And once we start to see the water run clear, then I know that it's ready to pull. Because these are hot and you don't want to shock any yarn, you let them cool off before you start rinsing them. So because these are freshly cooked, I don't know that we're going to be touching them. I'm just going to probably let these keep marinating, and then we'll probably move to some other ones that need to be rinsed. And I can show you kind of that process and how we go through that to make sure that everything looks good from there.
So we're on to the next step. What is the next step?
I'm going to pull from here and put it in a little holding tub and let it cool down. Due to my space limitation, dyeing out of my home, I want to keep the production going and I want to continue dyeing all day. So I want to free these up for usage elsewhere. So I'll pull and set it aside, let them cool down for a little while until they're good and ready to be washed. I kind of squeegee it down a little bit. I'm using this because it's way too hot for my fingers.
Yeah, that's smart.
That way I'm not carrying around a lot of water, and set it aside. And also right now is a great time because when I squeegee it, I'm also looking for if there's any additional dye left in the water because maybe something didn't take very well, or if there's big white spots in the yarn or stuff like that. So getting kind of visibility into that. So what we're going to do is we're going to wash it, make sure that everything's clean. Once again, that the water's running clean and that there's no dye coming off of it, and that it's fully taken everything that's on it, so that when you work with it, it is what it's going to be at the end. This stuff is looking really good. I'm not getting any color in there anymore. So I'm going to grab my yarn and I try to evenly put it within the tube so it doesn't off kilter too much. It's still a little bit damp, so you have to be careful to let it completely air dry before moving on to the hanking. So I usually just take these and then I throw them up on my fancy pants dryer. I make sure I space them out so there's no spots hitting each other, and then I'll put my fan on it after that. So
Perfect. All right, well, I guess let's go get some more and fill this up and move on to the next step. After the yarn is dry and complete, what do we do with it next?
So I don't know that you want me to hand you one of these things. I mean, you could use it as a lei. You could use it as, like a hair tie, maybe a headband. That might be kind of cool. But most people don't want this because this is too much and it can tangle and all that stuff. So we put it into hanks. And then that way it is a nice consistent looking skein and it is repeatable over and over and over again.
What can we learn about the hanks?
So it's hard to read a hank a lot of the times because when you look at it, you see all these lovely colors, but what is this going to look like when it knits up? And that's a big piece because, there's a ton of different ones. You can see that there's a lot of color changes and stuff, but what is this going to look like when it's really done? And what I have found is if you ask the store that you're at, if you could unhank it to kind of look at it a little bit further to see what it looks like, you can start to figure out what it's going to look like in your crochet or knitting project. So this first one, you see reds and blues and greens throughout it. There's no super high definition on it. So when I take that and I unhank it and I look at it, I see there's going to be blues and a little bit pop of red, and there's a lot of green. So what this means is all of this area that's being done is going to be a long draw of green.
Okay, so when I'm working it up, it's going to be mostly green, and then...
Yes, it's going to be a high amount of green, and then it's going to have a little pop of blue, and then it's going to be more green, and then it's going to be a little pop of red.
Gotcha.
So
okay.
That's what that looks like. And then I have another one here that, again, it's got, the colors kind of spread throughout. But if you look at this one, you're looking at a lot of longer draws. The draws for the orange are very long, and then it comes to the red and it has a longer draw of that. So this is going to be a medium because if you look, it's pretty evenly spaced throughout the skein. This is going to be more, not striping, but a little bit more stripy, where this one is going to give you kind of a more marled or kind of just kind of sprinkled throughout color, you know, so you have the mostly green with these little sprinkles of colors through it.
I never knew that. So now I know how to look at hanks before I buy them and what the finished project is supposed to or will typically look like. So that is great information. Thank you. So now I know how to buy hanks. Gloria, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for walking us through how you hand dye a yarn, how you work it up and present it, the whole beginning to end. I loved your process. This was so much fun. Thank you for your time and hanging out with us and showing us everything that you do.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I really love sharing what I do with everyone. This is super exciting for me. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
All right, guys, thank you for joining us today. I hope you learned a lot, had fun, and I hope you have the best day. And I'll see you at the next one. Bye, guys.